Hey, my family and friends and fellow patriots, I hope you're having a good and safe day in this insane world that we live in now, where they try to firebomb you if you drive a car that they don't like, that they used to really like, that they pushed and pushed for, but then they decided they didn't like this guy's politics, so then they hated anybody that actually drove a car that bought it before. And something, and Trump's Hitler or something. And by the way, if you're Elon Musk and you go and wave like that, it's a Hitler salute. So I guess I just did it too. And everyone that's ever done that, that's how bizarre these people are. They actually post pictures of it. And of course, if you go back and watch that video, you see that he says, he's putting his heart out to these people. It's a ridiculous, insane world. But I'll do some other things on that stuff. Look, I haven't watched this whole clip yet, but she's a particularly interesting character who is about as full of shit as they can get. So I only watched about the first maybe 1 minute. I don't know if the whole thing's interesting. The beginning seems a little bit, and I have something I want to flip to on her after this real quick. So let's get right into it. And if this gets too boring or too long, I'll just cut it at one point and I'll go to something else. But I don't want to make this video too long. All right, let's see what she has to say. I'm sure it'll be brilliant. And yes, I will be opening my big mouth throughout it, and hopefully that's why you watch.
What took decades to build and is the envy of the world, a network of alliances that has kept the United States safe after World War II, is today, right now, shakier than at any other point, all because of the Trump administration. News breaking today of extraordinary discussions that weeks or months ago would have been unthinkable. NBC News has exclusive reporting that some of the United States...
It's unthinkable that we've stopped giving every country in the world all our wealth while American people struggle. It's unthinkable that we don't want to be involved in every skirmish there is in the world. It's unthinkable that Donald Trump wants to prevent World War III. Will he be successful? I don't know. I sure as hell hope so. Now, I have a million reasons I voted for Trump, and I'll tell you, top of my list, not having a nuclear war, because everything else under that, which I never understood that. I've spoken to people that have these little pet issues that are basically nonsense and I don't agree with. But even if I did agree with them, it doesn't matter, because whatever your issue is, if we we destroy the world with nuclear bombs, your issue no longer matters because you're all dead. Seems like common sense to me. But let's roll on. I'm sure the rest of the world is probably awesome. And Donald Trump in the United States, I'm sure, sucks, according to her, because that's all you ever hear from the left.
States' closest allies are talking about scaling back their intelligence sharing relationship with the United States. That includes the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. It's also known as the Five Eyes Alliance. But it also includes Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are having these conversations. And it's because, quote, concerns about safeguarding foreign assets whose identities could inadvertently be revealed. One Western government official tells NBC News this, quote, there are serious discussions going on about what information can be shared with the U.S. The Five Eyes have always worked on the premise that we don't spy on each other. I don't think that's reliable anymore. Tulsi Gabbard and these other characters, I don't think.
We've always spied on each other. So that's nonsense right off the bat. She does have nice hair. That's the only good thing I can say about this person.
We can have any degree of normalcy in the relationship. That's right now where we are. And I don't see any way that changes.
Normalcy means status quo, where we lose, where we always lose.
So that's what's happening behind the scenes. Out in the open today, our European allies held another emergency meeting to try to figure out how to prepare for a future without the United States as a reliable ally.
How to keep going towards war. That's what they did. They should have backed off, let Trump handle it, but then they jumped in, put their 2 cents in. You know why? Because they're all warmongers. Why do they love war so much? Well, they're very evil, most of these people. They're extremely evil, a type of evil you and I don't really comprehend, but there's also a lot of grift, a lot of fighting. I mean, war is very profitable for the right people. For, you and me and, our children and whatnot, what it means is horror and destruction. But if you're in the right positions, very profitable.
NBC News confirmed earlier reporting that there are ongoing talks happening between around 20 countries, mostly European countries, interested in contributing to what they call a coalition of the willing to support you.
Coalition of the willing means World War III. You see where that goes? I love the tricky wording. Okay? These are people forming an alliance to go to war. 20 more countries? 20 more. How many do we need to have World War III? We don't even need 20. We need like 4. I don't even know that we need that. A couple big superpowers can pull that one off and destroy the whole world.
Ukraine. It is, of course, a response and a reaction to the events over the last week, the halting of arms shipments to Ukraine, the pause in intelligence sharing with our ally Ukraine, and the ambush of our ally, whose war against Vladimir Putin had once united the West. And in the days after.
When did Ukraine become this great ally of ours, by the way? Was it just when they needed something of us? Because I don't remember ever thinking Ukraine was an ally to us. I don't remember ever thinking about Ukraine very much. I mean, it came to light. I guess I knew it existed. It didn't mean anything to me. It really became a focal point when we realized that the Biden crime family was making billions of dollars out of there at our expense, at the taxpayers' expense. Their bullshit energy jobs and all that nonsense. It was ridiculous. It was so blatantly obvious. How do they try to put Donald Trump in prison for things that aren't even crimes, yet the Biden crime family gets away with the things they did? It's so blatantly ridiculous. But, yeah. What a load of crap. And this Zelensky, he's as crooked as hell. Ukraine is one of the most crooked places on earth. It always has been. By the way, an awful lot of the weapons that we sent there to help this country supposedly out, they've wound up in Mexican cartels' hands, terrorist hands. I wonder how that could be. Could they be selling them for profit and letting their people die? Listen, whenever I speak about a country, I'm not speaking about the people. All right? Well, very rarely. You could be in certain situations. But for the most part, I'm talking about the leaders of those countries, the people that are profiting from there. Because the people, they're just people. When you throw a kid up on the front lines, and I don't even want to speak about what happens in this war between what's happening to these Ukrainians on the front and these Russian children, Russians and Ukrainians. Well, the children are all gone. Then they started bringing in our older, middle-aged guys. Now they're throwing 80-year-old men up there. They're grabbing people off the street and sending them to certain death. Not like they can win. They're just throwing them in a blender for their war machine. Screw Zelensky. Don't fall for that bullshit. You can support the people, but if you're going to support the Ukrainian innocent people, support the Russian innocent people too, because they're all just innocent people like you and your children.
After that meeting, the attacks on Zelensky himself. Now, Politico is reporting this, quote, 4 senior members of Donald Trump's entourage have held secret discussions with some of Kyiv's top political opponents to Volodymyr Zelensky, just as Washington aligns with Moscow in seeking to lever the Ukrainian president out of his job. Those discussions center on whether Ukraine could hold quick presidential elections. These are being delayed in line with the country's constitution because Ukraine remains under martial law. Critics of
what they mean by that is Zelensky, who I've got to listen to morons that never know what they're talking about, telling me that Ukraine is some bastion of freedom, which it is nothing like that. They put people in prison, have forever, over religion and all kinds. No idea of this place. If you don't know, if you know, you know. But a lot of my audience knows. You're intelligent people. But those of you that don't know, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And Zelensky has just declared himself president forever. He's dictator, okay? So you hear the word dictator about the Russian side, about Putin. That's fine. You can say that. But Zelensky's also a dictator, all right? And in a way, it's worse. This isn't me siding. Don't take it wrong. I'm not drawing lines here. What do I have? How do I have the right to? What can I really do? But I can draw the lines on intelligence, and I know that at least Putin believes he can win because he can. He could overnight if he wanted to level it. He could. He just could. That's just reality, all right? All right? The United States and Russia can destroy each other. Certainly Ukraine can't destroy us. So that's a fact. He can level it. Zelensky's just throwing people up there to die knowing he can't win because he's raking in cash. This guy's got yachts all over the world, beautiful mansions. Don't believe these bullshit pictures. He's on the front lines. Get the hell out of here. You wouldn't even have your leader on the front lines. It'd be the stupidest thing ever. He'd be the biggest target. Then they'd hit him. You'd hit another one. You'd put him on the front lines. And you'd hit him. It's so ridiculous. This is such a show. Such a show. And Trump wasn't wrong to get pissed off that day. I was getting pissed off watching it. I would have freaked out before Trump did and JD did. JD was the first one to go.
of holding elections say they could be chaotic and play into Russia's hands, with so many potential voters serving on the front lines or living abroad as refugees. And news breaking just a few minutes ago, President Zelensky posted on X that Ukrainian officials will meet with his American partners during a scheduled meeting in Saudi Arabia on Monday. President Zelensky says this, quote, Ukraine is most interested in peace. America's allies realigning for a world without American leadership as the Trump administration takes actions favorable to Russia is where we start today with some.
He didn't want peace when he was in that meeting. He wasn't reaching out for peace. Now he's reaching out for peace. You know why? Because of the strength Trump showed. Because he's used to Biden just folding.
Some of our favorite reporters and friends. NBC News national security correspondent Courtney Kuby, who's bylined on that reporting we read from. Also joining us, former CIA director, now senior national security analyst John Brennan's here. Courtney,
this should be
through
brilliant.
Your reporting.
Yeah, so we have a couple of stories that deal with all of this. One is on some discussions that the Trump administration is having about the future partnership with NATO. So we have seen many of these NATO's countries, they're European Union countries, they are meeting, talking about the future for Ukraine, talking about the future for defense of Europe. And for the first time, they're now talking about it in a way where the United States doesn't play as big of a role. Well, the Trump administration is also doing the same. They are.
At no point did they talk about peace, though, right? Peace was never on the table.
Are now considering some major changes to their NATO relationship that would include potentially prioritizing the members or the nations who spend a certain amount of their GDP on defense. Now, now NATO members are expected to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. The Trump administration has now been calling for that to be increased to 5%. Nicole, of course, the U.S. doesn't spend 5%. They're right around 3.9%. But the Trump administration is now calling on all members
because we're bigger, we don't have to.
Their defense spending as part of their GDP. Now, according to the officials who we spoke with, the Trump administration is considering pulling troops back from some of the countries that do not spend as much.
Great.
And even calibrating some of the exercises
Bring our people home.
Involved in, so not participating in exercises with countries that don't spend as much on defense as some of the other allies. Of course, this would be a huge change to how the United States has dealt with the NATO alliance historically for decades since the Washington Treaty was signed. And it opens up the possibility that the United States would not be there to defend in the case Article 5 is invoked. That is, of course, if one NATO member is attacked, all NATO members are attacked, and they have the option to respond for their.
Zelensky went out and said that Russia hit Poland. It was Ukraine that hit Poland. He tried to, now, that was supposedly a mistake. Maybe it was a mistake. Could have been a mistake. I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. I think that was a way to draw us into a war, to draw everyone into their war. I believe that. You can disagree with me, and I might be wrong. I don't have the evidence of it. I do have the evidence that he came out and said that Russia did it, though, when they did it, and that tells me something.
Their defense. That's one of our stories. Another one is on intelligence, as you were just saying. Some of the United States' closest allies and intelligence sharing allies are now having discussions and concerns about how the United States is clearly moving closer to Russia. The Trump administration, with their language, with some of the actions, seem to be trying to have better relations with Moscow, normalization, essentially, of relations. That is causing.
First of all, Trump was very hard on Russia in his first term. Very hard. I'm not going to go into all the specifics. You can look it up yourself. He was very hard on them. Second of all, good. I want a president of the United States that gets along with a president of another superpower. They don't have to be best friends, but I don't want them at each other's throats. I want them to be able to have a beer together, whatever you want to say. You know, I want, of course, Trump doesn't drink, but you know what I mean. It's metaphorical. Listen, I don't want people that just hate the other side because that doesn't work. All right. If two gangs on the streets, we see it in this country between gangs, street gangs, they just drive indiscriminately shooting each other. Little kids get killed. All right. I don't want a world like that.
concern among intelligence allies and intelligence officials who are now questioning whether sharing some of the most sensitive information with the United States could potentially compromise foreign assets. Of course, those are individuals responsible for gathering intelligence all around the world. It's one of the most sacrosanct parts of intelligence gathering, of the intelligence world, is keeping their identities and keeping those individuals safe. Some of these allies are now concerned that they cannot rely on the United States to do that, Nicole.
Courtney, can you just sort of, with all of your knowledge of her building behind you, just put into context how significant a shift this would be for not just the military, but the entire national security apparatus?
I don't know of a shift that would be more significant from a military perspective than this would be. If, in fact, the United States really pulls back from NATO, and really decreases support for NATO. Think about it. The United States has troops throughout I think all of these NATO countries, but if not all, most of these NATO countries, and in some cases, thousands of troops. They have combatant command headquarters there.
Good. Bring them home. Bring them home. I've heard enough of her. I'm sure you have. Let's skip forward a little bit, see what this idiot has to say.
Is about what they're saying it's about, and how much of it is about all of this being shared with Russia.
This is also damaging and dangerous for U.S. national security interests, Nicole. It is unsurprising that our partners and allies around the world, especially in Europe, are now reevaluating what it is they want to do in terms of sharing information and intelligence with the U.S. The strength of the U.S. intelligence community over the course of many decades has been a result of all of.
Okay, we've had enough of him, too. You know who John Brennan is. He's a warmonger. He's a scumbag. He's a crook. He's an all-around piece of crap. And the hell with him. I'm going to show you something else because this, she is just so special. Here's what this woman says about the other day. We all witnessed what happened. I did a video on it, actually, where Donald Trump gave his address, and he had a child there who suffered terribly with brain cancer, with law enforcement aspirations. He gave him a secret. Let me try that again. I can't do it. A secret service. You ever get that? Something stuck like that? A secret service badge. And he has badges from all different law. It was a beautiful thing. It was touching. I'll tell you what, I'm not a sissy guy, but, I went like this, I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Parents and families that lost children to immigrants in the most heinous of ways, horrible things. I'm not even going to get into it. But this is what she had to say about that touching moment. And never forget, the Democrats did not stand for that. The Democrats just sat with those scowls. And then they actually came out and made fun of the kid. Called him a DEI hire, called him a puppet, all kinds. It was so disgraceful. I don't even want to say some of the things they said because it gets so disgusting. We'll listen to a little bit of this, and then we'll call this video a wrap. But this just consider the source is why I'm doing this.
NBC reaction that I teased at the top of the show, and this was in response to little DJ. And honestly, I don't know what's happened to this person. She used to be a Republican. She was the person who shepherded Chief Justice John Roberts through his confirmation process. It's Nicole Wallace.
And I just want to say this, and I'm not disagreeing with anything she just said there, but you don't have to be a Republican. First of all, I'm an independent, okay? People don't often realize that. I'm very independent, but I'm very conservative. So, I don't align myself with parties. I align myself with the people and their messaging and what I believe they'll do. But, I don't care what you are. If you didn't have a heart for these people, for this child, for these families, and you politicize it, there's some things you don't politicize. You just don't do it. And once you do it, you show your true colors.
Wallace, who now, I think her next job will be with the Lincoln Project. Here was her reaction to sweet 13-year-old DJ.
It was a genuinely beautiful moment. The beauty of that child is the tragedy of the Trump presidency.
What?
Because we don't know how he survived pediatric cancer, but it is likely he benefited from some sort of cancer research. And it is a fact that Trump has slashed cancer research. And I hope he lives.
That is not a fact. That is not a fact. First of all, I'm pretty sure if you look through, because I know I've donated to many causes, and I certainly don't have what Donald Trump has, and I know some of the things Donald Trump's done way before he was involved in politics. I guarantee you he has given money for children's cancer research. He's actually helped families directly with large sums of money that were suffering from things like this. And I know that's a fact. And I know liberals out there are going to pretend like it's not, but I don't care what you pretend anymore because it is a fact. But there is no fact that he cut money for cancer research for children because 80%, 90% of the money that we are told is being spent by our government on this or that is being stolen, misappropriated, used for something else, used for a hidden war, a hostile takeover, used to make the Biden crime family and all these other politicians richer. They go into office as a bartender, which is nothing wrong with being a bartender. An awful lot of my friends are. But the point being, I know what bartenders make, and they can make a decent living. But they don't wind up with 50 million, 60 million in the bank real quick, right? So you go into our office as a bartender on one day, and 2 years later, you have $30 million in the bank. How did that happen? Well, maybe you stole it from the cancer research funds. That's what he cut out. Fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm so sick of this bullshit. Always twisting words. U.S. aid makes it sound like it's aid, that we're helping poor people. We're doing all this. No, it's not. It's not that at all. That's just a catchy way they said it because it's not U.S. aid. It's USAID, all right? And that is all about overthrowing governments and all kinds of other shit. And most of it's mostly just a mechanism to steal all your money. And I'm sorry, but I get wound up. If you watch me, then you know that. I get really wound up and I just can't shut up. All right, let this roll.
And the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer that crystallizes.
It sounds very nice so far.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer.
I'm with you.
But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Let's break that down a little bit. Seditious conspiracy. No one was charged with that. No one was charged with seditious conspiracy. So that's a lie. At least no one was convicted of it. I don't know if anybody tried to charge it, but no one was convicted of seditious conspiracy. That's all bullshit. All right? What else? She said, there was something else there she said that I wanted to catch in the beginning. Let's go back just a little bit. Let's hear that again.
He isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy.
It doesn't matter. I remembered. I don't have to get that far back. Yes. No one was killed. No one was killed. No police officers were killed that day. All right? That is another lie. Now it's 6 of them committed suicide. Well, I think suicide's a terrible thing, okay? But if you're in law enforcement, now to really put this together, you're in law enforcement. There's a riot, which is what it was. It was a riot. There's a riot. Due to that riot, you get so upset that you commit suicide. You should not be in law enforcement. Now, I don't believe any of this happened. This is all make-believe. But let's just go with what she said. You're in law enforcement. Something goes wrong. You commit suicide. What? What are you talking about? That'd be like a doctor committing suicide because someone came in that was severely injured. If you're in law enforcement, that is your job. That is what you signed up for. You didn't sign up to just stand around. Most of the time, those guys are just standing around. I don't even say that to insult them. Most of the time, there's really not a hell of a lot going on, especially at the Capitol. Very little, probably, I would assume. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact. I've been there many times. There's not a lot. I've been in politics. There's not much going on there that they have to worry about. I mean, they have to keep their eye out for the crazies that might come in with a weapon or something, but it's a pretty chill job usually. Well, you might have that day where you have to step up and actually do the job. And by the way, it was Pelosi that didn't accept the National Guard troops that Trump offered. And had she accepted that, then they wouldn't have even had to do the job. And I guess they wouldn't have committed suicide, which I don't believe any of that bullshit. These people twist and lie about everything. And then if you take a second and try to analyze it and look back, and it's just like all the hoaxes with Trump. When they say he said this, but they give you a little clip this big. And when you look at the clip this big, you say, that's not even close to what he said. Very fine people hoax. That never happened. He never said that when you look at it in context.
And then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
And let me tell you something else. There's another reason they should have been pardoned. First of all, they should have all been pardoned. Okay? There were. This is a fact. Deny it. I don't care. I know it's a fact. Everyone knows that it's a fact. There was law enforcement, FBI in the crowd, urging people. Ray Epps, other ones, urging. Why wasn't Ray Epps charged? Why wasn't Ray Epps charged? There was more evidence against him than anyone else there. Why was Ray Epps not charged? Because he was working with them. Telling them, you've got to go in. You've got to fight. You've got to get them. Okay? Law enforcement cannot do that. That is called entrapment. Once they do that, and it's proven, all bets are off. I don't care what crime you committed. They convinced you to commit the crime, especially in a crowd that's all wound up like that. All right, so the pardons are completely legitimate, unlike Biden's pardons, where he pardoned basically himself is what he was trying to pardon. Okay, he didn't pardon himself, but that's basically what he was doing because he was trying to pardon everyone that could testify against him. That's what he did. All right, and anybody that can't figure that out, I can't help you.
Oh my God. That is jaw-dropping. We went back and looked to see what the reaction on set was to her. And even her fellow panelists, from Jen Psaki to Rachel Maddow, you could see Jen Psaki literally leaning away from her. And even Rachel Maddow, without commenting on that, just moved away, bridged away to another topic. When you've gone too far for Psaki and Maddow, you've gone too far, period. Can you believe that?
It's a psychological malady. It's literally sick. I mean, you look at that from a rational perspective. You're like, okay, that must be a deep fake of what Nicole Wallace would say in such a circumstance. Say it's a lovely moment. Say the kid's a hero. His dad's a hero. We wish.
Of course, that's what you say. Of course, you would have stood up and clapped. I know you would have stood up and clapped. Even if, well, I can't say this. I was going to say, but even if you're one of the crazy liberals out there that hate everything I stand for, hate everything I say, hate Donald Trump for no reason, hate everyone for no reason. I can't believe you wouldn't stand for that. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. I know if the roles were reversed, the Republicans would have stood. If Joe Biden had brought that kid in, the Republicans would have stood. I know I would have had the same heartfelt sympathy and compassion when I saw that child if Joe Biden introduced him, as I did when Donald Trump introduced him, and the same with the other families there and all their terrible losses. And if you don't have that in your heart, if you can't separate politics from children in general, let alone this child and these families, you're a very sick person. And I would say get some help, but I don't think there's any helping you. I think you're just a horrible, horrible, horrible creature. But I'll tell you what, we could go on and on, but it's the same thing. They're just going to beat the same drum. And I don't want to do that to you. I know you've got to get to work. You've got things to do in your life. But I want to keep you informed, and I think you enjoy this. I know a lot of people do because I hear back. Please like, share, and subscribe because I'll tell you, they really suppress my videos as much as they can. It's not quite as bad as it was several months ago, but it's still bad. It's still bad. If I was on the liberal side of things right now, this would get shot out there. YouTube just sort of crushes me down. Plus, I'm pretty, I say words they don't like. I do what I want. I have my own opinions, and I don't give a shit. And the algorithm doesn't like that. So I really count on people like you to help me get this out there. And we're all in this together. I do this for one specific reason, and that is to spread the word. I want people to know what's going on. Now, if you got anything from this, please spread that to some others. Please let people know. We can't let this go on. Look at what they're doing at Trump Tower. I just did a video. Go back and check that out. If you see that they're attacking Trump Tower. They blew up a car in front of it a couple weeks ago, a Tesla. Someone's going to get killed. A lot of people are going to get killed. By the time they're done, this is terrorism. These people have gone from, first of all, you know what liberal means? Look liberal up. I actually did it one time. Liberal, just Google it into your phone, and it's a compassionate person that accepts the other side's opinions. These are not liberals, obviously, right? Do they fit that definition? All right? These are sick, sociopath, Satanists These are communists. These are terrible, terrible people. It's up to you. Donald Trump can't do this all alone. We all have to work together to save this country and save the world from World War III. Be on the side of no war. Be on the side of no more children being blown to shreds with bombs. Be on the side of not grabbing people off the street that are screaming and crying and throwing them to the front line where they last 5-6 minutes and they're blown to shreds. Be on that side. Be on that side. If you're not on that side, there's something wrong with you. Again, no, I'm not going to apologize. I get wound up, you know me. When I believe in something, I believe in it strongly. Well, this is where I jump off, guys. May God be with you all. God bless America. I love you. I love your family. I love the world. I love my children. And Twisted is out.